Hello and welcome to Business Live with me, Winston Taki. Coming up, IC Research projects slower growth in revenue in 2025 to reach 209.3 billion Ghana cedis. Also, Telecom Chamber joins calls for removal of e-levy to increase mobile money usage.
If you take the e-levy off, what is going to happen is that you are going to get a lot of people begin to use the service. And then you would also there are other things that you need to do. Find ways of encouraging merchant payments to happen.
There's a more update coming up right after this. Now to the details. IC Research has revealed Ghana's total revenue for 2025 will reach 209.3 billion Ghana cedis, about 17.2% of gross domestic product. This will represent a slower growth of 16.1% as against 33.8% year-on-year estimated for 2024. The following report has more.
On the spending side, it stressed that total expenditure on commitment basis is projected at 240.9 billion Ghana cedis, about 19.8% of GDP in 2025. This will represent a sharper slowdown in expenditure growth to 10.4% year-on-year versus 32.2% year-on-year estimated for 2024. According to the report, whilst the International Monetary Fund explained that the expenditure forecast assumes full debt restructuring, the fund also underscored the need to strengthen expenditure controls and implement enhanced fiscal responsibility framework. Within this context, IC Research views the projected drop in expenditure to GDP ratio to 19.8% amidst a broadly flat projected revenue to GDP ratio of 17.2%, as indicating a consolidation based on post-election year expenditure controls.
A senior lecturer at the University of Cape Coast, Dr. Kawor, has called on the incoming government to exercise prudence in its expenditure during the first quarter of 2025. In an interview with Joy Business, Dr. Kawor cautioned that a potential shortfall in government revenue could lead to an extension of the IMF program.
What is going to happen is that there will be a reduction in government expenditure. So government will not be able to spend as they wish to spend. They've told us that government will go on with a limited number of ministers. If that happens, that will bring in additional cut in government revenue. That will also mean that we're going to have a reduction in development expenditure. So infrastructure will suffer because we are receiving lower amount of money. That way, it also implies that if we are not able to raise enough amount of revenue in the country, it means that we have to go back to borrowing. And that might have implications for the IMF extended facility that we have, which might be extended over a period of time. The tax administration in the country have to be improved. That is the efficiency to reduce tax evasion and increase revenue collection in the country. We have a situation where new taxes are introduced in the country. We have third parties that are collecting these taxes rather than the Ghana Revenue Authority. Right. So we need to look at the tax administration. The other way to look at it is to broaden the tax base. When we broaden the tax base, what will happen is that we are going to reduce the over-reliance on the few taxpayers that are already paying the tax in the country. And how would government be able to increase the tax base? Through education, making sure that those who are not paying the tax are brought on board through accountability and transparency. We want to see how they use the taxes very well to the development of the country. We need fiscal discipline. While we need to maintain fiscal discipline ensuring that expenditure aligns with the revenue growth that we have. We cannot continue to spend more than what we receive as a country. If we spend more than what has been budgeted for, then we are going to have a difficult situation. So government will need to ensure that we have all these things put up, so that once we do not compromise the tax collection, but government considers reforming the tax system that will make it equitable and efficient for people to pay the taxes.
The Christmas festivities is characterized by trading of goods and food items, but how are players in the poultry sector taking advantage of this period? Joining us on Zoom is the former president of the Poultry Farmers Association of Ghana, Michael Nyako Ampem. Good afternoon and welcome to Business Live.
Good afternoon. A pleasure to be here.
Great. Michael, how has the sale of poultry been in this festive season?
It's been slow, I must say. It's been very slow. It just picked up this week because no, the economy has not been too healthy, and expendable income has also not been available. So I think now that people are beginning to get their monies being paid at the end of the month, they are beginning to come in to pick up a few birds here and there. So it's beginning to pick up, but generally it's not been as good as I would expect it to be.
Compared to last year, can you tell us how prices are affecting the sale this time?
Yes, last year prices were ranging between 120 cities, in fact 100 cities and 150 cities. This year is ranging between 160, 200, 220. And it's also because of the increases in feed, and some people are also cashing on the festivities. But generally, that's the range.
What can be done to improve the consumption of local poultry compared to the imported frozen chicken in the markets now?
Okay, so good question. The thing that must be done, we've always said it, and I hope that it can be implemented this time around, is to have the value chain working. You have the hatcheries, you have the producers, you have the cold room, and then the marketers. One of the vital things that we must have now for us to do is to have the cold room as well as the abattoirs. If you have a good abattoir, you have a slaughter room, then the people produce and put there. It's not going to be an issue where people just produce as and when an occasion comes up. But once it is there and the price will come down, the maize, which is the back end, the maize and the soya, must also be worked on. If they work on it and the prices come down, obviously the cost of production will come down, and this will work for the nation, and importation will reduce.
Michael, give us an idea how the local poultry industry or sector performed this year compared to last year. In terms of pricing, you mentioned the case of feed. What other factors comes to play?
Generally, the problem year on year has been the forex exchange or foreign exchange. I must say the foreign exchange is because we import some of the produce, which is like the soya, the fish meal, some of the additives like premixes and all those things that we add to the feed. Those things are imported, and so once the exchange is affected, foreign exchange is affected, it affects the price of the feed, the end product, which ultimately affects the farmer. Again, until if we go back a bit, until about 2019, 2020, maize was ranging around 60 cedis a bag. Just after 2020, it started rising due to various factors. It started rising, and now we are doing, when I checked this morning, a bag of maize, which is about 50 kilos, is going for about 330, between 330 and 350 cedis. So that obviously, if you look at the 60 cedis to 350, you know that the increase is quite high, and that will ultimately affect the cost of production, and that is what has caused it. So And that has been maintained, that price range has been maintained from last year to this year, and is making the cost of production difficult. Again, because the foreign exchange has not been stable, has been going up. Of course, it's come down a bit, but everybody, the producers will have to wait and see whether it is consistent, it is stable, before they will also make a shift either way. So that's what we're dealing with until those factors are worked on. And again, the presence of maize, it's not just produced when it is in bumper season or in lean season, but there must be a consistent agreement with the feed millers. How many bags of maize do you need per month per production or per cycle, so that these things are stored in warehouses and prices are agreed on. And once these things are done, it is easy for those who produce to plan. It is easy for those who produce the best to also plan, and prices can be stable, and the price of the end product, which is the bird or the egg, will also be stable.
Based on the factors you've laid clear, what is your expectation for next year, especially for the local poultry industry?
That's a big one. Look into a crystal ball. But I would say that we are hopeful. Farms have collapsed, but we are hopeful that the incoming government will look at all these factors that have mitigated against the poultry industry. Once they look at it and do make the implementation real, they get the farmers. In fact, what they need to do is to get aggregators to go into the production of maize, go into the production of soya bean. You have these aggregators, and they will hold the hand of the smallholders, and then bring the things in, and they'll put it together, have large quantities. And when they do that, you are sure that you are going to have a stable availability of the produce, and that would take away the speculation of prices. And surely the price will come down because there's no speculation, there's availability, and the main people who would take a chunk of the produce have been given consistent production, like it's been done for the bulk importers of crude oil. You know, a window has been created for them to for foreign exchange, so they don't have to struggle with people on the open market. The same way, if something like that, a window like that, is created for the farmers in terms of maize and soya, then the producers, which are the feed millers, are assured of this constant presence of the produce, and it will help mitigate the price increases. So if the government, incoming government, does these things, then we'll be hopeful that prices will either come down, or at worst scenario, it will stay the same.
Briefly, Michael, before I let go of you, as the plan of the incoming government, especially, which is one of the key policy during their campaign, have you come across any guideline or proposal that probably will be rolling up going into next year?
Yes, I've looked at it. But I keep saying that my nature is that I don't believe in policies again. I believe in the implementation of the policies. So I wish to see the implementation of the policy. The policy itself, as it is good, is beautiful, it is exciting. But it is the implementation of the policy that will bring hope, that will bring joy, that will bring a release to the farmer. So yes, Nkukun Ketenkete is good. You give to smallholder, but when you give to smallholder, you must have a big person who is an off-taker, who is ready to take this thing off the smallholder. If you don't do that, you must have a lot of birds in the market. You crash the industry, and that will even collapse the industry the more. So it has to be systematic, it has to be planned, and it has to be strategic. That's what I would say.
Michael Nyako Ampem is the former president of the Poultry Farmers Association. We appreciate your time here on Business Live. Here we take a short commercial break. We have more business update for you. Stay tuned. Now let's bring you more business update. The Chief Executive of the Telecoms Chamber, Dr. Ken Ashigbe, is optimistic mobile money usage will increase if the new government goes ahead to scrap the e-levy. According to him, overtaxing the sector is detrimental to its growth. He was speaking on PM Express Business Edition.
And again, it's beyond even what you would see in Ghana. And again, the good thing for us in Ghana is that you can go back and look at the data. Let me give you an example that is in the industry. When CST was reduced from 9% to 5%, we saw that the level of taxes grew up, because of the fact that a lot more people now are being compliant. If you take the e-levy off, what is going to happen is that you are going to get a lot of people begin to use the service. And then you would also there are other things that you need to do. Find ways of encouraging merchant payments to happen. And so that when the merchant payments happen, when people who are within the rail sector, your mason, your electrician, all of those people who currently are not paying any taxes on the incomes they are earning, you then move them into this bracket, work in such a way that you're able to identify those payments. And then, so after they have made their profits, you don't front load it, but after they have made their profit, then they all would then pay taxes based on the profit. You will find that you'll be able to collect more. You'll be able to get a lot more people coming into the tax net. Compliance would improve more than we've had.
I mean, Uncle Ken. I get from you that the sector is being overtaxed, and that's a fact. How do we put this argument in the space about the normal incidence of taxation and all the rest, and the principles and the morale behind taxes? If I earn more,
yes,
I should be paying
more.
Yes. Again, from the eye of a layman and all the rest, if I look at the numbers of some of the telcos, and I use the word some, they are making good profits. If you are making good profits, what is stopping the government or the tax man to come after firms that are fair? The more that you earn, the more you pay. So I struggle sometimes to understand when the telecom operators are complaining about we are being overtaxed, the taxes is making our products expensive and all the rest, because you are making it more. Especially, for instance, when people complain about when they are being shut down for, not telecom operators, but other businesses, the bit about VAT. You've collected the monies on behalf of the state. And you are saying that I'm not making profit, but this is a tax that you collect on behalf of the state. Yes. So just pay back to the state. No, so I'm just saying that if we use that principle of taxation to work in here, why are the operators complaining that they are
no, so again, our complaint is not about the fact that we're paying CIT, corporate income taxes. Our complaint is not about the fact that the stabilization levy, although that should have set, has not set. When you put the tax on profit, and you remember that this government, when they came, they were going to move from taxation to production. If you move the taxes and you put it on profit, that is the way to go. So that if I make a lot more profit, I pay a lot more. But when you have the situation where you and I, you, George, earning more than I do, if all of us go to go and buy data, all of us, I would have to pay the same amount of tax that you also pay. Then that does not become equitable. That kind of taxation is not fair. And that is not something that should be encouraged. That is the reason why we're saying that every tax should be progressive, so that the person who pays more, who earns more, should pay more. Do you also want to do it in such a way that you don't front load the taxes in such a way that the person then, before he starts even making profit, then you are collecting the money from the person. You don't also do it in such a way that you take all, because again, it is industries that are supposed to be taxed more are the same industries. But when you have the situation so that those who are selling, alcohol, those who are selling cigarettes, those are the people that you are expecting that should be paying a lot more so far as taxation is concerned. But not a product that you say is a utility, so that for my grandmother who is in Shame, for example, both of her, when I send 10 CDs, she sends 10 CDs, we're all paying the same, amount of tax. That cannot be, a progressive tax. That cannot be equitable. And so that's what we're saying that, and then again, when you have situations where you have industry-specific taxation, that is also not something that you should be encouraging. Because now, if you brought $1 million that you wanted to invest in any industry and you went into, say, real estate, you put that your 1 million into real estate, and then somebody put it into telecommunication. Telecommunication, his customers would have to be paying, how do you call it? They would have to be paying CST, whilst the other one who moves on to the other side, they don't pay that. So that's definitely, those are the things that we're talking about. So for us as an industry, we're not talking about the fact that we should not pay taxes. We believe that we should pay taxes, and we believe that we should pay our fair share. But we need to make sure that it is equitable. How does it happen that within the technology space, you know that now a lot of the monies go to most of these big four, the OTT companies. You know, you take your Googles, you take your Facebook, you take your Metas and all of that. They don't, how much taxes do they pay to government? So they also need to contribute. They also need to be contributing. And so that's all that we're talking about. It's about the equitable and the fair share of the industry so far as taxes are concerned. Let me give you a typical example. If you look at our contribution to GDP, our level of contribution to GDP, it's lower than our level of contribution to GRA's taxes. So that difference, for example, tells you that why is it that when it comes to GDP, this is only our contribution, but when it comes to taxes, we are paying more than, you know, almost double. Our contribution is almost double when it comes to taxation. All of these are inequities that have to be corrected.
I know the contributions that your investment team members have made in this space, and since you also wear the different hat of these mobile money operators and all the rest, are your members doing enough to minimize the fraud? And there are times I forget myself. They will call you, George, you are a member of this group. We are trying to update it. You want your number. I know someone that, I know you know that person personally, but maybe she's not told you that. As of now, she's not using mobile money because the fraud exposure. And it has gone up in recent times. And this is not just in Ghana. I've stayed outside and I've had this challenge also before. But can we up the game a little bit?
No, so again, so far when the issues around fraud is concerned, now you notice that the fraud has moved from just mobile money fraud into other forms of fraud.
That is actually an exciting conversation. You can have the full edition on our YouTube page on myjoy.com on our YouTube and also on Facebook. But for more business update, you can visit myjoyonline.com. Ghana to return to single-digit inflation in Q1 of 2026. TBO's auction, government got 21.5 billion in November 2024, lower than the estimated target. My name is Winston Taki. Thanks for watching. Have a good business day. Bye-bye.